Action Comics 1089, Mark Waid writing with SKYLAR Partridge on the art. So yeah, we got more Superboy stuff, and this took some an interesting direction. Obviously, we had the cliffhanger last issue with the teacher showing up. What did you make of this issue, Matt?
So I like this issue, mostly because I like that it's Clark's narration from the present going back, and he's filling in, as he's narrating what is happening, he goes, oh, there was red flag number 1. There was red flag number 2. So it really makes me care what happens with Captain Comet, who's a character I don't particularly have.
Oh, and Matt, explain who that. You can't just say, "It makes me curious what happened to Captain Comet." You've not told the audience the context of who that is yet.
All right. So, teacher comes to the door, right? He knocks on it. Mom and Pop can't answer with Clark in the last issue. He knows that Clark is Superman, right? He's pieced things together. This issue starts with them talking about
technically, but yeah, how'd you go?
Yes. And so he's Clark's history teacher at the school, and come to find out he's actually this hero that at least Ma can't remembered hearing stories about, named Captain Comet. And through this bizarre rate of superpowers, which he claims to be a mutant, or at least Clark, fills us in through the narration. He had all these, otherworldly powers and went on these adventures, and basically wants to make sure that Clark is ready for the responsibility if he's going to do something like this. However, there is a sense of darkness to him, and we're getting like I mentioned before, the narration from future Clark, or from present day Clark. I mean, that he should have picked up on these things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we get the cliffhanger at the end, which clearly indicates a more sinister, or at least like an antagonistic motive at the very least. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff is basically just like, he's very kind of sharp with him. He's very like, oh, Clark, do you know how to deal with this type of crisis or that type of crisis and not get people hurt? So on and so on. Talks about, because he's like, hey, yeah, I've met other young heroes that have like had a lot of potential. This guy from this moon from Jupiter, like, he was great, but then he caused a genocide, or he says something like that at one point.
Well, it was stuff like, when he's telling these stories, right? These are these big, huge events that happen to these young heroes, which I don't know a lot of big time heroes that could handle these either, right? But like, yeah, the one kid who couldn't stop a polar megastorm, and it claimed the lives of half the planet. And then, yeah, the other one that tried to, from Stegus 4, tried to thwart an alien invasion with mind control, and it backfired, causing him to turn against his world. Right. And you're just kind of like, yeah, maybe Clark shouldn't get too close to this guy.
I mean, I think he's just trying to scare him. I think from his perspective, he's just saying things that Clark won't question because he doesn't really understand what they are. Like, he wouldn't know what those things are for the most part. Like, we kind of understand it because we're nerds and we read a lot of comics and watch a lot of movies, and we kind of get the vibe of it. But I think that's just a scare tactic more than anything else. And Clark's kind of on edge. The parents are getting kind of nagging at him for like using his powers when he's doing his chores and things like that. Complaining that there's too many bullet holes in his outfit and all the rest of it. There's a little bit more sort of like longing at Lana and like, I smell her perfume, and try to talk to her. And immediately he's interrupted because they're sitting. Well, I say they're sitting in class. They're having class outside because of the fire from the last issue. So they're having like outdoor classes. And it just so happens that they're in history. So that he gets interrupted. So this Captain Comet teacher is the voice like there's like, Mr. Kent, are you not paying attention? And kind of starts. And it's almost like obviously to everyone else there, he's just being a teacher. But this is obviously very pointed at Clark. It's like, hey, you need to know these things. So on and so on. So, it's I think what I like about this book, even though I'm not, I've said many times that I'm not a big fan of like the Superboy idea as a concept, is unlike Waid's World's Finest and even a lot of his Justice League Unlimited so far, is that this does not just feel like we're having lots of like fighting happening with no context. It feels like there's growth. It feels like he's got a story that he wants to tell with young Clark, and we're doing the whole like, will he work up the courage to ask out Lana? As simple as that is, he's doing all the lessons that he's learning, and like the fact that he's maybe going to start to trust this Captain Comet, and then obviously regret that later on. Because maybe he'll have some success. Maybe Captain Comet will give him some advice that leads to like a win, and then he'll think, oh, maybe I can trust this guy, and then obviously he'll feel betrayed when the time comes. So I'm enjoying the teen angst part of it. I'm enjoying him like getting bullied a little bit, and him like having to fight back his anger because he wants to punch the bully. But obviously he will kill the kid, so he has to kind of hold it back a bit.
There would be pulp remaining if Clark really wanted to. But yeah, it's dripping with teen angst, right? And we get that all in the, there's a page that's almost all dialogue free, right? Where the bully kind of knocks the stuff out of Clark's hands. And then you see Clark, ball up his fists and all the things still flying. Well, and everyone looking at him. And so,
what I like about those panels, though, that you just brought up is that there's like 3 panels, right, with red backgrounds to the color of anger, right? Not just in Green Lantern. Red generally is considered the color of anger, but obviously we have red lanterns, so yeah, it's fair play. But is that panel 1 is some of the textbooks and notebooks flying around. Panel 2 is the clenched fist, and then panel 3 is the books and stuff flying again, which I think implies to me that this is all happening in the blink of an eye because the books haven't fallen yet. It's all very like, his perception at super speed of like, oh, I considered punching him, but only in like the fraction of a second as they were still falling. And by the time they've fallen in the next page, he's kind of, he's still angry, but he's kind of fighting it and he's subdued it. He does push him though, to be fair. Like he does sort of snap a little bit. And he basically realizes, oh God, I've just gotten angry. I've just done this. And he runs away and flies off, gets into his outfit and just speeds off out of the sky. And he can't get a second alone because Captain Comet just, flies after him and grabs him. So
it was almost you've seen the meme of Superman and Darkseid, where Darkseid has his cape, like he's an income. It's from one of the animated movies, I believe. That's what I kind of felt like for a hot second, where it's like, oh, what is Captain Comet doing? But yeah, that other scene, back with the bullies and stuff, it kind of reminded me of Raimi's Spider-Man when he goes to stand up to Flash. Because now he has his powers and, Peter's got a little bit of a swagger, but he doesn't want to fully go. So again, it's dripping with that kind of angst. And I feel like you need that in this kind of teen superhero story because he's still trying to figure out who he is.
Yeah. So basically, Captain Comet's like, hey, there's a crisis happening. There's the horde of locusts coming. How are you going to deal with that, superhero? And he kind of leaves him to do it on his own. He tries super breath. That doesn't quite work. He tries a super clap. That doesn't really work. It just kind of like, disperses them a bit. So he ends up, thinking of something to do with, frequencies or something?
The sound.
Sound, yeah. Which I'm not going to pretend to explain exactly. He explains it in the narration, but he's able to he's able to fly them back to like a safer place where they're not going to harm anyone. Further north where the climate's more calming to them or whatever it is.
Yeah. So the thing with locusts are they're actually regular grasshoppers. There's just a slight change in their hormone levels, and that's what makes them feast on all the crops and whatever in these big huge swarms. So what he figures out is if the conditions are right, with the sound of them interacting with each other, they'll just become regular grasshoppers again. So Clark manipulates the sound and balls them all up to get them, somewhere a lot cooler where the hormones aren't going to affect them as much. And, they're not going to eat everything in sight. Which, again, that's a very Superman-esque solution to this, right? Because he's not going to swat the entire swarm of them. So
yeah. So the end of the book is just he's flying back and he's being monitored by Sam Lane in a truck. They're watching, and Captain Comet's there, and he's like, "Yep, this Superboy is definitely a threat. Let's discuss what to do next." So he's working with Sam Lane. He's spying on Superboy, which is kind of weird actually in some ways because Captain Comet knows who Clark is. So does that mean Sam Lane knows who Clark is? Because that doesn't really make much sense for the future if he does. So maybe for some reason he's not told him. Maybe he's playing both sides or something. I don't know. That's annoying to me a little bit in the same way that we had to do the whole Lois last issue. Like, oh, my 13-year-old niece named him Superman. This issue is that. this feels like something he's going to have to fix later. Like, oh, either he turns out he never told Sam Lane that he was Clark Kent, or somehow Sam Lane is going to get hit with like a mind ray device that gives him amnesia and makes him forget or something. And either way, I'm going to be rolling my eyes at it when it comes.
It's that thing that's a little bit too convenient, because you're telling me Sam Lane's either brother or brother-in-law works at the Daily Planet, right? And it's just like one of those things. Yeah. You know, you're like, oh, everyone's related to everyone. But I mean, I'm not surprised, because if the government's keeping an eye on some of these things, right, it would make sense that Lane's there. However, having Comet directly report to him is weird.
No, the part where Sam Lane for the government is spying on a potential superhuman, like that part makes sense to me. It's the fact that Comet's talking directly to him, which opens a can of worms, because he knows who Clark is. That was the only time, though, in this issue I felt that kind of weird, like, oh, prequely, we have to fix this to make it all work kind of thing. The rest of the issue I thought was pretty solid. It had a clear focus on introducing this character who is meant to be this old school hero, and kind of showing what the start of that relationship with Clark is. And it's kind of hostile even off the bat, because he's so strict with them. Like, he's not saying, oh, Clark, you're a special young boy and I see potential in you, I believe in you. You know, he's like, no, you could mess up, and I'm here to make sure you don't mess up. So he's more of a drill sergeant than he is a supportive father figure or anything like that.
Which, I've read a lot of Superman comics, and I don't think I've ever had a character like this with him that shows up at this point in Clark's life. And I feel like it's almost of what's going to drive Clark to do the opposite, you know, later. And like almost when he kind of takes Nightwing under his wing and is this kind of supportive type. Like, you'd never describe Superman as a drill instructor to any of the super family or any of the younger heroes. So, you know, it's almost like this is the type of mentor where he's going to learn what not to do. Which, again, I'm fine with. It's just the Sam Lane stuff at the end was a bit like, I wonder where that's going.
Yeah. And, you know, it may just turn out that for some reason he's not told them everything. But if so, then why? Like, why hasn't he just told them who the Superboy is? And, like, the reason for that might be eye-roll inducing, because it's just because he can't know. Even though it would make no sense that he would not tell him. But, hey. But anyway, art's solid enough. You know, it's just very clean.
Yeah.
I think, you know, scenes like the page with the bully. I like that it kind of excels equally at the simple teenage stuff of, like, you know, him, like, you know, looking at Lana with the spark in his eyes, her hair's blown in the wind, as much as it does him flying off and like going into a swarm of locusts and all that.
Yeah. Well, and what I like too about Partridge's art is this is the same artist that did that Supergirl story that was in the backups.
Yeah.
But it feels different, right? There's a bit more of a kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word, like not Silver Age, but classic, I guess, kind of, where the Supergirl story had more of these sci-fi kind of elements to it. So just Patrick showing how versatile she is as an artist, which I like.
Yeah. It's a bit more down to earth. All right, Matt, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm going to give this a straight 8.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it's a solid issue. I think I'm liking the sense of focus in this book. It's just that every so often it has one of those little, this is something he's going to have to like explain just so it makes sense with the future. And every time that happens, it takes me out of it a little bit because it just feels a little bit funky. But that's like a little thing at the end of this one. I think the overall vibe of it and like Clark's frustrations and like growing up is solid so far, and I thought it flowed well. So very pleasant read for the most part. So I agree, 8 out of 10.